Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. The Springboks will officially begin their season against the Barbarians once again on the 20th of June 2026, this time down in Gqeberha. And it'll be a very interesting clash because the coaches of the Barbarians will be Scott Robertson, now ex-All Blacks coach, as well as current Argentina head coach Felipe Contepomi, which are two of the most Barbarian sort of style coaches you could think of in the current sort of modern game. And it does allow the Springboks to get a bit of an extended season, an early start ahead of the Nations Championship openers in July. We then got the greatest rivalry series in August, September, a once-off test against the Wallabies as well before our end of the year tour, where we will play 3 tests over in Europe before our finals weekend, where we are hoping that we might be sort of crowned our first ever sort of Nations Championship winners, with the finals weekend taking place at the end of November. Before we get into the details, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. So, press release confirming the news from SA Rugby this morning, saying that they will start the 2026 season with a Barbarians clash in Gqeberha on Saturday, 20th of June. And that'll basically be almost a preseason clash, really, before we head into our Nations Championship. The Barbarians coach quartet will be headed by former All Blacks head coach Scott Robertson and Los Pumas head coach Felipe Contepomi, who will be supported by Rassie 92 head coach Patrice Calazzo and Argentina assistant coach Kenny Lynn. So it's a very good coaching staff, and I'm hoping that, given the fact that we've got an All Blacks coach, an Argentinian coach, hopefully lots of Argentinian players involved. Obviously, we won't likely see lots of top 14 players involved, considering the sort of the season, the likes of that, but hopefully we will get a strong Barbarians side. Last year was 54 points to 7, so it was a bit of a runaway game, but it was an entertaining game, to be fair. And I think that it's just good to get extra games at the end of the day. I think the Springboks will now play, I think it's about 13 games in total, 13, 14 games in total this year, which at one stage was looking at close to sort of 10, 11. So good to see we've got these extra games that have been sort of added to it. Speaking about the match, Rassie Erasmus said, it's always exciting to face the Barbars, and we are looking forward to having them in South Africa for the second time year in a row, this time at the iconic Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, which we have traditionally enjoyed fantastic support. So, yeah, there was a bit of people are quite upset about the lack of rugby down in Gqeberha for the year, and hopefully this will quench a bit of their thirst over there. He then mentions that with the opening Nations Championship encounter against England just 2 weeks later, this will be an ideal opportunity to get the players match ready against a side that always posts top players from across the world. He then said the key for us, however, will be to focus on our structures, what we want to achieve on the field, and we now have 2 new exciting competitions, so the sooner we get into test match mindset, the better. Speaking about the appointment as a coach of the Barbarians, Contepomi says it was a tremendous honor to play for the Barbarians, and now to be invited to coach the Barbars in a match against the back-to-back World Championships in their own country is just as special. He said it's a recognition of the performance of Los Pumas in recent years, and it'll be a great challenge to put a team together in a week to face South Africa. I eagerly await that opportunity. And then finally, Scott Robertson said the Barbarians brings the rugby world together, so it's special to be part of it and to honor this jersey. Let's get into the Springbok fixture, shall we? So it all starts, as mentioned, on the 20th of June against the Barbarians. We then have 3 weeks of international rugby in July. 4 July, 11 July, 18 July against England, Scotland, and Wales. Ellis Park, Loftus, and Kings Park, the venues. We then basically have a month off of international rugby because we have the greatest rivalry tour, which will obviously see the All Blacks play domestic games against the Sharks, Stormers, Lions, as well as the Bulls. The first test of the greatest rivalry tour will be on the 22nd of August, followed by the 29th of August, and then the 5th of September in South Africa, before we then all jump on a plane and we head over to Baltimore for the final once-off sort of test outside and the final sort of conclusion of the greatest rivalry tour, and that will be on the 12th of September. There is then going to be a once-off test against the Wallabies on the 27th of September. We obviously won't play the Wallabies this year, given the lack of rugby championship. However, we will now get a once-off test against them, and also play against also our team players against the Barbarians. So once again, Rassie Erasmus has managed to basically play almost every single team in the top 10 rankings in some sort of shape or form. It's a phenomenal calendar, really. And then we go overseas to play Italy, France, Ireland, and then a finals weekend where we could play the All Blacks again. We could play in Ireland. We could play in England. We could play anybody in that finals weekend. So it's a really, really good calendar, to be honest. And I think it gives us everything. You know, that Barbarians game will be, inverted commas, a bit of a preseason game. Obviously, it'll be interesting to sort of see which players are available. You expect to see a lot of Japan-based players. You also might not necessarily see as many new faces as we kind of want, but last year we did see some new faces. Then you've got England, Scotland, 2 big games. Wales, I think, is an opportunity to potentially, inverted commas, rotate. Then you're going to see flat out in the Greatest Rivalry Tour, and maybe even an opportunity to rotate against the Wallabies. But I think by the time we get to the end of the year, we'll probably be looking at basically our World Cup squad. And I think that come, the finals weekend, you'll be able to look back on the year and kind of have an idea of maybe about 95 to 98% of the World Cup squad, assuming if sort of everyone's fit, because you'll kind of understand what the different pecking orders, you'll understand based on how much game time certain players get, how much that they really are, part of the World Cup plans. Because it's easy to give players a couple of games here and there, but there are certain players who they definitely seem to be sort of World Cup project players. I'm thinking of Jan-Hendrik Wessels, obviously a Sasha Famigama-Zulu, but even Ethan Hooker, for example. These are players that are getting lots of game time that we maybe not have expected to get them. Something like a Ruan Okir, for example, very much now seems to be a core part of the Springboks side. So it's about getting them as many games as possible so that they are ready for the World Cup, in about 18 months' time. It's right around the corner. It really is on our doorstep. So this season is the final season of preparation. Next year, it's basically icing on the cake before you then present our cake at the World Cup, really. This is now the foundation, the final sort of part. We've gotten all the ingredients in the last 2-3 seasons. Now it's about putting them all together. Next year, it's the final touches. Then we go into a tournament where we are going to be the overarching favorites. Unless we have a dismal season. Unless we fall apart this year, the Boks should go into the World Cup as the favorites. And that's not being arrogant. That's just, if you look at the trends, you look at the results in the last few years, they are at the moment the best team in the world. They are back-to-back world champions. We're not going to be able to try and create any sort of narrative that we're not the favorites, that we're not expected to win this World Cup. That will be the narrative unless we have an absolute shocker of a year this year, which, given the way we were training last year, I'd be surprised about. You look at certain teams like in England, for example, taking steps forward. Now they've got questions asked. I think Ireland's a bit more settled after the result over the weekend. I think France is probably one of the top 2-3 best teams in the world, and I think on their day could take on the Boks. We're not entirely sure what the All Black side's going to look like. So I think there's still lots of question marks over a lot of the international sides, where I suppose ourselves and France are probably the two sides with the least amount of question marks. And as a result, that's kind of why people sort of feel that they'll be sort of overarching favorites kind of going into the World Cup. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.